Thomas Pan join us today to do his talk on how major brands, how global brands are leveraging the Web3 and Metaverse. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Thomas for his talk. Thomas, over to you, buddy.
Hello. Can you guys hear and see me okay?
Loud and clear.
Cool. Well, hi everyone. I will share my screen right now. I have a boring looking presentation, but I promise the contents are probably what matters these days. Can you see this? I think you guys can.
We can, Thomas.
Great. Let me put this in slideshow mode. All right. So we're a little behind. I could definitely do this in 20 minutes. I'll try to go faster. So if you can't keep up, it's me, not you. And also, I will make this presentation available after. Feel free to reach out to me, Ali. We can get that taken care of. All right, brands in Web3, how it impacts the metaverse. Put a lot more than 20 minutes into this presentation, just compiling everything. So packaged up in a nice bow, black and white presentation for y'all. All right, I'm gonna make this the most informative 20 minutes of your day today. I can't guarantee that, but I think so. Let's buckle up. All right, let's find common ground first. I imagine some of you are crypto native or have been in the space for some time. I'm definitely not an OG, will happily admit that. I came into the space more seriously in January 2021, thanks to NBA Top Shot by a company called Dapper Labs as a consumer. And that caught hundreds of thousands of other people, partially by surprise, partially by speculation, partially probably still to a degree staying at home and online due to, COVID and the transitionary period. And that really got a lot of people on chain and exploring different types of products from a consumer standpoint, as well as inspiring a lot of other entrepreneurs and builders, right? So let's find common ground first. NFTs are down, crypto's down in the dumps. It's probably going to go to zero, right? Wink, wink. But regardless, let's start with that common ground. One, it's not about you. It's also not about me, right? If you have children, where are they spending a lot of their time? Probably online, maybe on Roblox, maybe on Minecraft. That's online, maybe not on the blockchain, but it's definitely online. It's digital, virtual. That's just a trend that's moving very much in one direction. I think it's pretty hard to deny that, right? Also, that society, which is more than just us in this conversation, is moving online globally. Whether it's your family, whether it's other people you have a day-to-day conversation with, everything's moving online. Crypto and blockchain technology are here to say, depending on where you are, it might not be as apparent or it might be behind the scenes, but it is here to stay. There are a lot more growing applications of this happening. And with many of the examples, particularly with some very large Fortune 100 brands, they're probably going to show up in different ways and maybe just not in a way that we see today, right? It doesn't have to just look like Coinbase and be a chart. Although very much of that is, just like in the last presentation, a lot of amazing stuff happening in terms of the tokenization of assets, RWAs, etc. It hasn't quite had its AI moment though, right? Specifically, there's been a lot of stats around ChatGPT by OpenAI as an example. I believe the number was 1 million users onboarded in 5 days. Threads, the hyped product from Meta, a months ago had 1 million users in a more creative and sort of bootstrapped way from their existing network. But I think that basically happened in a day or two, or even in a matter of hours. And now there are over 100 million users of ChatGPT, not to mention many other AI products. So crypto hasn't quite found those types of moments yet, and they will likely come, and maybe not in as a prominent of a way though, right? So we'll see what exactly that looks like. But what I like to say is onboard and adoption through 1,000 cuts versus death by 1,000 cuts, right? So lots of people are shooting their shot. And enterprises are looking for the next big thing. Have done some thinking about this. I think just logically, if you're a Fortune 100, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 brand, like what's the next big thing? You've done all the best practices. You probably created those best practices, whether it's engagement, loyalty, B2B sales. What is next? Loyalty is going broader. It's getting more creative. Engagement is going deeper. It's looking at many more steps than, hey, did you just click on something? Did you just purchase something, right? And it's possible Web3 and blockchain can help facilitate some of that. Cool. So who am I? I'm a growth marketing professional, came from quote unquote the Web2 world. So I'm based in the Bay Area, have worked at large startups, one of them being Uber, have worked at smaller startups in fintech, entertainment tech, edutech, etc. Currently, I am a growth lead at Pollen Labs, which is a subdivision under the Ethereum Foundation. In short, we're a B2C focused product incubator and accelerator, dog fooding, and also working to build products for the broader sort of Ethereum ecosystem to educate and inform what's going on with the Ethereum Foundation. Consultant and advisor to Web3 companies in the space, and also, like Ollie mentioned, I have my own blog. I've been writing it about 16 months now, covering various use cases of Web3, a little bit more on the consumer side, but also growth and marketing related tactics, strategies, and frameworks. So that complements my background, just something I enjoy doing passionately. Published on Tuesdays and Thursdays. After this, I'm actually going to be writing the piece today. It's going to be about friend tech for those of you that are aware of what's going on in the space. Really big product, a lot of hype. We'll see what happens there, but interesting. All right, let's start with Starbucks. Cool. Let's do a quick timeline. In May 2022, Starbucks announced a Web3 initiative. They didn't give much detail, but they, on their official blog, mentioned they are exploring Web3 and NFTs, right? This was over a year ago, right? That's pretty notable and it makes sense. It takes time to build something interesting, especially if you're very large global, sort of a lot of eyes are on you type of brand. September 2022, they announced more details about what that thing is. It's called Starbucks Odyssey, will involve a few different aspects of NFTs, loyalty, creating a new type of experience. December 2022, they launched Starbucks Odyssey in different waves and onboarding. I personally onboarded in January 2023 this year. On a high level, the structure is a different type and an experientially focused loyalty program. So they already have Starbucks Rewards, one of the top loyalty sort of apps, at least in the US, possibly to a degree in the world. And this is focused more on activities, journeys, and stamps, a different type of hierarchy. And also in regards to the rewards, the hierarchy here is based on points, levels, and benefits. They also have recently included community challenges where everyone in the Starbucks Odyssey community hits certain goals and they win together, so to say. And also, there is an existing link between the Starbucks Rewards app and the Starbucks Odyssey platform, which is web only for now, but depending on success, I can imagine there's going to be some form of integration and also mobile app development happening there. So let's make this interactive. This is clickable. You guys can still see my screen. All right, so here's an actual pop-up. Right now, we're in the benefit selection period, so you could actually select your perk, right? This is a little different than getting a free coffee or something like that. I am level 3, so I have achieved 8,300 points by purchasing stamps, by completing the journeys and things like that. And I chose to redeem my perk for a Starbucks Odyssey tote, right? And each of these levels has different rewards. So I won't go into detail on that just because we have limited time, but I just wanted to show you what this UI looks like. It's not the most beautiful thing, but at the same time, for where this is in beta, this is somewhat well thought out. And each of these different journeys has the activities nested within it, right? So as an example, I still haven't completed this journey. These are transactionally focused while others are experientially focused. So it's a good mix of this. For this one, the challenge is communally oriented, but also transactionally oriented. You need to visit 3 different participating Starbucks stores and make a purchase at each. And with the communal aspect, the Odyssey Communities Challenge was to visit 8,000 or more unique stores by the end of the year. And just for context, 8,000 stores is just about half of all Starbucks locations in the US. That's a lot, right? It's not like this program has 100,000 people participating. So this was actually completed in a week, right? This launched several weeks ago. This is supposed to last potentially, 4, 5, 6 months. This was completed in a week. Shows how interesting people found it. It shows the coordination that happened. And there's a lot of other fun stuff that happened. I wrote about that. You could check that out separately. And here's an example. Whoops, it was completed, but some of these others are more online based, experientially based. So that's a quick sneak peek of what's going on with Starbucks Odyssey. A lot more on that front too. All right. So what's going on here with brands in general, but it's very clear with Starbucks. If you look at a sort of just cross section of what's going on, loyalty and experiences with these types of programs are shifting to a degree from offline to online, especially if it's a retail space, right? There's an opportunity to actually create experiences that are online as well as synchronous. And we're seeing versions of that. It's not literally that everything's happening at the exact same second, but with the example of community challenges, you can see that people are coordinating online and they're taking action offline, right? And for Starbucks as a company, they do have the offline piece as they should because of their core business. They have that pretty down pat. On the asynchronous side, they have that pretty down pat too, right? So they're starting to explore, and other brands too, what it means to do online and synchronous through loyalty and engagement. So something to keep an eye out there. And I think a lot of other brands will be looking at that too. So looking at this from a sort of other point of view, loyalty programs in general, Web2 typically, especially with established best practices today, are transactionally based. Some are experientially based as well. So for example, especially with something like a Nike flagship store, you walk in there, that's an experience, as well as hopefully you spend money too. But for a lot of them, it's just sort of, hey, I need to buy clothes, do the thing, there's a layout, but it's going to get richer. With Web2 and Web3, you really sort of expand the experientially based piece with the capabilities of Web3 while having that transactionally based program integrated and established, right? And what's happening now with the example of community challenges that I pointed out is we're actually expanding both the transactional and experientially based engagement and loyalty potentially with what's going on here. So we're seeing that evolution. And at the end of the day, this is a business. They need to make more money. And hopefully this is a new initiative, especially as an early mover where things get interesting. So let's go to Nike, another very large brand, a very globally beloved brand. Everyone recognizes that famous check mark. November 2022, they announced dot swoosh. So this is pronounced dot swoosh. There's a dot or a period, then swoosh, all capitalized. I'm not yelling at you with swoosh. That's actually the way they spell it. Again, different generation, different way to sort of interact with that audience. They announced this new program, right? December 2022, they actually created the dot swoosh ID claim, which is effectively a soul-bound NFT. So it's a digital collectible or identity. In this case, for their ecosystem, you cannot buy, sell, or trade that. That's tied to your account, right? To date, there have been about 350,000 of these claimed and created, right? And that number can grow significantly more. May 2023, they announced the R Force One drop. So this is the first virtual or digital collectible within this dot swoosh ecosystem, a virtual edition of a sneaker based on the Air Force One. So anyone that's familiar with sneakers, I like to call myself a retired baby sneakerhead because I used to be more into that world. This was paying homage to that. A lot of creative stuff I'll show you in a bit. And then they started this string of announcements after that quiet period earlier this year. So June 2023, they had a large announcement. This was literally the day after the R Force One sale concluded. They announced a partnership with EA Sports. And then later that month, they announced a partnership. This is Nike specifically, but also there were dot swoosh components attached to that. They announced a partnership and activation with Fortnite, and Fortnite has been very, very prudent and a great platform for brands to reach a new younger audience, and Nike has seen that as well. July 2023, a new type of utility is emerging. I'll show you guys a little bit what that sort of looks like. They provided 3D files to their R Force One holders. So this effectively allowed anyone to become a creator with high quality assets. Sorry, Luis, I might be boring you, but I'll try to be faster. Just kidding. So what themes are we seeing here? Consumption is moving to a single player game into a multiplayer game, which is co-creation, right? What else? We see virtual items becoming something that is everywhere. Achievements can be something that is actually an item and not just necessarily tied to a platform. And we're seeing interoperability even suggested by these types of announcements, right? The EA Sports announcement was that your dot swoosh assets could actually be used in EA Sports games, right? So this is that quote unquote promise of interoperability that people have been talking about for a long time. And it's a nice big buzzword. But in the coming months, maybe sometime next year, we'll start seeing earlier versions of that happen, hit mass market, right? EA Sports is not a small name. Cool. So let's go into what this platform looks like today. So this is my .swoosh account, TPan.swoosh. I joined in December 2022. You could see that from the Air Force One sale that I had some unopened boxes. I'm just keeping that there for safekeeping. Who knows? Maybe they'll be worth nothing. Maybe they'll be worth something. This is very, there's a saying in the sneaker world called rock one, stock one, right? Just you always want to have an extra pair of something just in case maybe it jumps up in value. Maybe you're feeling nostalgic. You want to crack open a new box of that favorite pair of sneakers. And you can also see, I'll click on it so it's bigger. You can start seeing what this virtual item looks like. And it's pretty nice. Granted, it's not a real shoe, not the same exact utility, right? To be very clear. But you can see that they put, okay, let's see. Okay, so you can see that there's some animations with that. And they really, the team spent months to create all these different generative editions and versions of these sneakers, and really creating a canvas that literally isn't possible, right? On a sneaker today. They could paint the pattern, they could print the pattern, but it's not the same as creating a sort of visual effect, right? This is pretty cool for what it is. So what else? One interesting thing to note is this utility tab. So you can really see, like I said, they deliver 3D files to all holders. So I could download these files and actually create on top of that. They encourage that, right? With those Air Force Ones for the holders. So I can download that. That's not available for everyone. But what's also very interesting, I already alluded to EA Sports as an example, there's some more stuff going on here. So these tokens, these digital collectibles are becoming basically tickets to exclusive product experiences or access to purchase a product, exclusive experiences, IRL or online, mint passes. Maybe you need to have something or multiple of something in order to get access to mint another thing. And also gaming, like I mentioned earlier. So this is also something to keep an eye out on. Clearly, Nike is sort of pushing the boundaries of what that sort of next generation of engagement and potentially loyalty, as well as monetization could look like. Nothing crazy, not a big line item, if anything, a rounding error. But this Air Force One drop generated 2 million in first primary sale revenue. So not nothing, but sort of a rounding error for now. This is in beta, so imagine what this looks like at scale, and if they sort of launch this and expand on this in sort of interesting ways, which I'm sure they have up their sleeve. Cool. All right, let's go on to the next one. McDonald's. So I actually wrote a hypothetical piece about McDonald's because grew up with McDonald's, enjoy McDonald's, still love their chicken nuggets. And it was a little bit more like what if, and this was early in July 2023. Before, there were a couple of interesting things announced by McDonald's. So one, McDonald's Hong Kong, specifically the Hong Kong branch and sort of territory, announced a campaign in partnership with Sandbox, which is a virtual metaverse owned by Animoca Brands. And then actually a week ago, McDonald's Singapore announced the launch of Grimace Digital Collectibles, right? And this was an in-app minting experience, which is still pretty unique today and sort of a sign of what's going to happen in regards to what you can do, where you can do, and how it's integrated into brand and or the sort of larger ecosystem, right? In-app minting isn't really a thing. It definitely happens, but again, this is larger brands that have a reach of billions, if not at least hundreds of millions, right? So what we're seeing with something like McDonald's, right? Because, you know, from a global scale, there are different sort of stages of adoption. For example, easy target is the US. Maybe they're warming up a little bit, but still very unclear from a regulatory standpoint. We're sort of seeing these larger brands explore and give the green light on a local level to a regional level to a potentially maybe one day global level. So clearly with Hong Kong and Singapore, these are specific countries and territories. but they're also based in Asia, which is generally warmer about this industry. And then that sort of moves along. And you can imagine, and I know that, you know, these teams are talking to each other to a degree, right? They operate separately and in silos, but also, you know, the people higher up do have conversations with each other. So something for even them internally to keep an eye on. And I already mentioned this, but minting, storing through wallets, as well as where the activity is happening, has historically and still is happening outside of a specific ecosystem, whether it's on, you know, for an average person, a scary platform that's sort of confusing. You have to click a lot, to in-app, which is much more familiar and seamless, right? Not perfect, but it is much more seamless than in the past so far. So we see some examples of this. This was actually the Grimace Digital Collectible 2000 that were minted, non-transferable in Singapore's McDonald's app. Was free, so that helps from a regulatory standpoint, and there are already perks for holders of this, right? So you can see potentially where this goes. Ali, I see you popping up. Get in on time.
Yes, I think if we wrap up now, that'll be awesome. It's been a phenomenal
Cool, great. Sounds good. All right. In terms of how it impacts the metaverse, already alluded to it, interoperability, the word that, you know, has been said many times and for many years, starting to come. Already a few examples of that. Persistence on the blockchain is going to be important, and the shift from digital and virtual being arguably more important, but at minimum as important as physical, as we've seen in some of those examples. Someone in the audience, or I don't know if he's here, but asked about Web3 and AI. Several examples will not go over in detail, but if you click on these links, can share the presentation, there's links to each of these sort of things. Dune, an analytics platform. Symbol, also an analytics platform, but focus on LLM to sort of humanize, you know, what's going on in the blockchain, as well as Polygon playing around with some tools. And this is an interesting chart, right? This was actually went viral a couple of weeks ago or last week, but, you know, showing how bots are actually quote unquote more effective at proving that they're human than actual humans, right? In terms of accuracy, as well as the time it takes. So does blockchain have a role in that? Maybe, maybe not, but, you know, the bots are getting pretty human. So how do you determine proof of humanhood, as a sort of popular term has popped up on that front? So thank you. Feel free to reach out, Twitter, LinkedIn, and also the Substack if you're curious to learn more. And I do have a little bit of an appendix about going deeper into some of these topics I covered. So appreciate you guys listening.
Thomas, that was phenomenal. I loved it. I loved your presentations at Blockchain Expo, and you did great today as well. Really appreciate it.